Happy Easter, everybody. Big problem in Nevada and Las Vegas with the proposed Oakland Raiders National Football League NFL Las Vegas Stadium. Yes, another big problem. Aside from the fact they don't have land, lease isn't complete and won't be until May, yada, yada, yada. Okay, huge problem. This problem is that the hotel tax increase that was part of the Southern Nevada Tourism and Infrastructure Act that was signed into law last October 16th, that tax is not producing enough revenue to cover the proposed $750 million bond issue, of which will be drawn the $750 million public subsidy. Here's why. Until now, we didn't have a sense for how the actual collection of these monies was going to go. They were all guesses, really. Projections are guesses. Estimates are just that, okay? But now, because the tax started to be collected March 1st, we got a different picture. And the picture is that according to the Las Vegas Stadium Authority's own budget, which you can see at their website, the actual money's coming in and then projected out just to the end of June, or 6/30, fiscal year 6/30/2017, are a total of $14,800,000. Now, the Stadium Authority's staffers take $1 million of that out for the Stadium Authority itself, as per the Southern Nevada Tourism and Infrastructure Act, right? So that reduces the total to $13,800,000. You following me? Okay. So now we have to think about it. We got March, April, May, and June. We have 4 full months, or if you like 4 full months, okay, where the tax has been collected, or at least enough of it so we can project forward to the end of June with some relatively robust understanding of what to expect. So you take that $13,800,000 and you divide it by 4, and it gets you $3,450,000 per month. Right? Capiche? Got it? Okay. So you take that monthly average and you say, all right, we know there are going to be perturbations, but let's apply that to the next fiscal year. Let's take that average to the next fiscal year, 2018. All right? And what we'll find is that by 6/30/2018, the total will be $41,400,000 for that fiscal year. So you say, so what? Well, here's the so what. If you go back to the Las Vegas Stadium Authority budget, there's 2 items. There's basically the actual money coming in. That's the expected monies current. Is the term current, all right? And then there's the approved. Approved is really a guess. It's really 50 million, and they take 49 million, just a little over 49 million, as what they call the approved amount. Folks, that's not money that's actually there at all. At all. Okay? Now, they would like for it to be there, but it's not there. Okay? Hold on a second, because this requires your attention. At $41,400,000, the total for fiscal year 2018 is less than the $49 million that's desired by about $7,600,000. And these are calculations that anybody can do. You, me, person over there, person across the street. Anyone can do these. So just sit down and concentrate. All right. Now, here's the other problem. If you take that amount, if you take the 41 million, and you say, okay, that's 41 million expected, but what is that going to get me in terms of what I need over a 30-year period for the bond issue, right? If I can only afford 41 million, that's a great question, because a lot of people just assume it's a 750 million, and they don't look at what's called the bond amortization schedule. The bond amortization schedule is principal and interest. and it gives you your total debt service. The total debt service on a $750 million bond issue, assuming 30 years at just 4%, which is really low interest, just 30 years, okay? I mean, excuse me, just 4%, all right, annually, okay? That debt service is $43,372,574 if you use what's called a basic or annual, what is called constant debt service schedule, all right? Where it doesn't change, it's locked in. It's $43,372,000 all the way through, right? Okay, so that that's what we get if we use that, and the term is level debt service. Okay. Now, what does that total to? That totals to $1,301,177,231. All right. Now, here's the so what of all of that. The so what of all of that is that is actually over what would the debt coverage ratio be if you took the 750 million times 1.5, which is 1,125,000,000. Far over it. Which tells you that, first of all, the debt coverage ratio, if you're doing it with just the 750 million, is wrong. It has to be basically the principal and the interest. The debt coverage ratio is really the bond's total debt service times, which is the principal and the interest, all right, times 30, or the 1.301 billion that I quoted you. You take that debt service and you say, what is that times 1.5, right? And that comes to approximately 1.9 billion, or specifically, if you want to have the exact number, it comes to, if it's 1.5, it comes to $1,951,765,846.50. Okay? That's what that comes to. Now, what does that mean? That means that you should have 1.9 billion free and clear from some source that goes into the hotel tax. That's collected hotel tax revenue. That's revenue free and clear. You can say, okay, I can grab from that. I can grab from that. All right? That's what you need. And the problem is that the way the bond issue is designed right now, because the debt service is at 43 million on the bond, okay? And you're only bringing in 41 million, you're at a shortfall. You have to ask the question, where am I going to get that 1.9 million, actually specifically $1,972,574, not just for 1 year, but over 30 years. That's a billion, that's 1.9 million, almost 2 million you have to get from somewhere, and that somewhere's got to be the general fund. And the reason is that at its current rate, if you look at what's being actually brought in by the hotel tax itself, it's not enough money, okay? Which means the tax rate is not high enough. Understand? The tax rate is not high enough. What should have been done is the tax rate should have been, say, around 2% instead of 0.88%, so that you get more money than you need. Right now, that's not there. They're not getting enough money. That's the central problem. So what this points to is that you've got to, if you want to get enough money, you got to redo the Southern Nevada Tourism Infrastructure Act, SB1. And there's no stomach to do that. So what's the alternative? Well, you've got to dip into that Clark County General Fund, because the Clark County General Fund is used as the backstop against shortfalls like the one that I'm talking to you about. Now, what's the alternative? Well, if you use a principal calculation, which is kind of a sinking fund, right? You could say, all right, I'll try that one because I know that the total debt service is less. In fact, it comes out to be instead of 1.301 billion, it's 1,215 million, okay? But here's the catch. It starts at 55 million and then it scales down to 26 million by the 30th year. It's not until the 16th year of money collection that what I have to pay out in terms of bond debt is actually below what I'm getting on the average at 41.4 million from the hotel tax revenue. On the average, the debt service using the principal approach is such that it's only $900,000 below what I'm taking in at 41.4 million. That's it. That's 2% of the total. 2.17% of the total. That's razor thin, folks. That's razor thin. What does that all mean? It means if you let this situation slip, and for reasons of perhaps, well, regardless of whether you use, I was going to say reasons of which you can pay easier, it doesn't matter. If you use the principal approach and say, well, I know my average debt service is less, the trouble is you have to cough up more up front. 55 million and then 52 and then it scales down, right? That 55 million is way over the 41 million that you're taking in. So that's a bigger gap that you got to pull from Clark County's general fund to make up the difference. And people are going to scream. Or, all right, or you can say, well, I'll cough up the $1.9 million annually, but you still have to get it from the general fund because you don't have it. You have to hope that you have 2 months that draw in double what the average is in terms of hotel tax revenue take at $3,450,000 or $6,900,000, $6.9 million. You have to hope you have 2 months at least that are double the average. And this is based on what's being collected right now, folks. Right now. Right now. So Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman was absolutely right when she wrote on the 12th of September of 2016 to the SNTIC that the funding approach and the fact that it had a general obligation, the Clark County General Obligation Bond as its backstop, was risky. And there need to be more protections in place for the taxpayer. Basically, you needed a larger tax rate. For those of you who were watching the SNTIC may recall that the original rate was 0.7%, but that wasn't big enough, so they raised it. In fact, they had debt service issues, so they raised it to what it is now in the law, 88/100%. Really, it should have been at 2. This is a huge problem, folks. This is a huge problem. How we got here? Because look, the $750 million subsidy call wasn't based on some scientific calculation or anything. It came from quite literally the whim of Oakland Raider owner Mark Davis and Las Vegas Sands founder and CEO Sheldon Nellis. That was it. It was a big number. And Adelson used his political muscle and money to get it for the Raiders and Mark Davis, who then, of course, turned, we know the history there, turned around on him, right? So that's the situation. And when the consultants to the SNTIC stepped forward, led by Chairman Stephen Hill, who's also on the chairman of Governor Sandoval's Economic Development group or department, they wanted a subsidy of $550 million. But the Raiders, led by President Mark Bedane, said that was unacceptable. They just hit the ceiling. threatened to walk.